must ask you, Australia Day,
Yeah.
a young man bolts out of the crowd and 2 shots are fired. What did you think? What was going on?
Well, first of all, I found myself standing up there on the platform.
The camera in the public's mind keeps pointing at the wrong place. It points at the crown. It points at the gowns. It points at Queen Camilla sitting beside King Charles III, calm, composed, finally where she always wanted to be. The public was told to look there, to look at the jewelry, to look at the years she waited, to look at the woman who outlasted every scandal and walked into the throne room anyway. But nobody told them to look at the one piece of paper that actually decides everything, the line of succession. And the moment you look at it, something stops adding up. Because if Queen Camilla is so central to this reign, why does the entire future of the crown move completely around her? Why does every legal road, every constitutional arrangement, every long-term plan inside the institution point somewhere else? Not at her, past her. Hi viewers, before we go further, tell me honestly in the comments. Do you believe Queen Camilla truly holds real power in the monarchy? Or just the appearance of it? One word. Drop it below. I'm reading every single comment. Now let's lay out the charge. Because that's what this is, a case. And a viral claim is sitting at the center of it. Across royal commentary channels, across British tabloids, across American social media, the story spread fast. That King Charles signed a final order, a shocking contract, and Camilla was left out completely. That phrase traveled around the world before anyone asked a simple question. Where is the document? That's the trap. People reacted to the headline. They never asked for the proof. And this case is not going to pretend a secret contract exists. This case is going to do something colder. It's going to show you that the monarchy may publicly honor Camilla while privately building its entire future around someone else. There are 3 forces in this room. King Charles III, the monarch trying to hold the whole structure steady while age and scandal press down on him. Queen Camilla, the woman who finally reached the throne after decades of waiting, decades of public suspicion, decades of being the most criticized figure in the family. And William, Prince of Wales, the legal future of the monarchy, standing quietly while everyone else argues about crowns and gowns. Watch how they move. Watch where the real weight sits. Charles holds the throne today. Camilla holds the title today. But the institution does not plan around today. It plans around tomorrow. And tomorrow has a name. And that name is not Camilla. Something is not adding up. You can feel it. The woman the public treats as the second most powerful person in Britain may not be in the structure of power at all. She may be in the picture, but not in the plan. Beside the throne, but not inside the future. And here's the part that should bother you. Nobody had to remove her from anything. No villain. No betrayal in a dark hallway.
Camilla is such an interesting person to talk about, actually, just because of how things have changed and how the perception of her has changed over the year. I mean, if you look at the front of Times 2 today, within the Times newspaper, from the Jilly Cooper set to the throne, which is an interesting way of looking at it, and perhaps people have forgotten.
The cold math was already there, waiting, the whole time. But the first piece of evidence is not hidden in a vault. It is sitting in public, where everyone can see it. It has been there for years. Printed. Official. Public record. And almost nobody reads it correctly. Because once you read the succession list correctly, Camilla's entire position starts to look different. Date, title, position, power. Connect those 4 things and the case opens itself. Look at the official line of succession. Not a rumor, not a tabloid claim. The real, published order that the entire British constitutional system runs on. Read it slowly, because this is the document everyone scrolled past. William, Prince of Wales, stands first. After him, Prince George of Wales, then Princess Charlotte of Wales, then Prince Louis of Wales. The future of the monarchy is already mapped, already named, already locked into a sequence that stretches across 3 generations. Now look for Queen Camilla on that list. She is not there. Not near the top. Not in the middle. Not anywhere. And here is what most people get wrong. She was not suddenly removed. There was no dramatic crossing out of her name. A monarch's spouse does not inherit the crown. That is not a punishment aimed at Camilla. That is the rule that has governed the British throne for centuries. The husband or wife of the sovereign stands beside the power, never in line for it. But the public reaction to that fact is brand new. For years, people watched Camilla sit next to Charles and assumed closeness meant authority. They saw her at the center of every ceremony and decided she must be at the center of every decision. The assumption built itself quietly, and the case has to prosecute it directly. Ceremony is not succession. Visibility is not inheritance. A crown on the head does not equal a future on the throne. Camilla can wear the title of queen for the rest of this reign, and still have no claim to a single day beyond it. Picture the difference. When Charles is gone, the crown does not pause to consider the woman who shared his life. It moves instantly, automatically, to William. There is no waiting room for the spouse. There is no transition seat. The throne passes to the bloodline, and the bloodline does not run through Camilla. That's the cold part nobody says out loud. She spent decades fighting to be accepted by the institution, and the institution accepted her completely, while keeping her permanently outside the one thing that actually defines it: the future. This is not a dry law lesson. This is evidence being placed on a table, one item at a time. Because the moment you understand that the succession was always going to move past Camilla, the viral claim about a secret contract starts to look almost unnecessary. The palace doesn't need to sign anything to leave her out. The structure already did. And that is where the palace benefits from confusion.
Oh, absolutely. I think she's really sort of centered him in many ways, but also, she's also a very strong woman. I've often made the point that I couldn't have gone through what she went through and still have chosen to...
I mean, when Meghan Markle bleats about media attention,
Well, exactly.
I mean, it's not even
She
the
was the
first
most
base.
hated woman.
Camilla had 30 years of this, and it was vicious. I mean, far worse.
Because confusion lets everyone believe what they want. Let the public think proximity is power. Let them argue over body language and seating charts. While that argument burns, the real machinery keeps running quietly underneath, pointing exactly where it always pointed. But succession was only the first document. The second one made Camilla look powerful, until you read the fine print. There is a title that makes Camilla sound essential, a real one, a constitutional one, and it almost rescues the whole argument that she holds genuine power. Counselor of State. Under British constitutional arrangements, when the sovereign cannot perform certain official duties, specific senior royals can be authorized to step in. Camilla qualifies. She is not decoration. She is not powerless. If King Charles needs certain functions carried out during illness or absence, she can be part of the system that keeps the monarchy operating. That sounds like power. For a moment, it even looks like it. And this is exactly where most royal commentary stops, because it's the version that flatters the story. Camilla, the trusted partner. Camilla, the constitutional backbone. Camilla, the woman the king leans on when he cannot stand alone. Now read the fine print. Because the prosecutor's job is to flip the case right here. Being useful in an emergency is not the same as being the future of the monarchy. A counselor of state fills a gap. A counselor of state holds the seat warm. A counselor of state acts on behalf of the sovereign, never as the sovereign. The role exists to protect the crown's continuity, and that continuity was always heading towards someone else. So watch the two roads split. If the question becomes who keeps the daily machinery running while Charles recovers from something, the road can pass briefly through Camilla. But if the question becomes who is the future of kingship, the road runs straight to William, Prince of Wales. And if the question becomes who carries the line into the next century, the road runs to George, to Charlotte, to Louis. Camilla may stand near the crown. She may even hold it steady for a moment, but she does not carry it forward. She is the hand that supports the structure, never the structure itself. And the public keeps misreading this. They see Camilla beside Charles at the most important moments and assume she is the natural second seat of power. The legal structure points everywhere except at her for the long term. She is essential to the present and absent from the future, all at once. Now add the emotional weight, because this is where it stops being about law and starts being about a life. Camilla waited decades for this. She endured comparison. She endured backlash. She endured being treated as the most suspicious figure in the royal story for most of her adult life. She survived all of it and walked into the role of queen. And after every bit of that, the most important royal machinery still points past her. Not against her, past her. That is not an insult. That is the system. And the system is colder than any feud. A feud has emotion. A feud can be repaired. The system has no feelings to repair. It simply moves where it was always going to move, and it does not slow down for anyone's decades of patience. But then came the crisis that forced the palace to stop speaking in symbols and start making moves. In October 2025, the palace did something it almost never does. It stopped protecting one of its own. Buckingham Palace announced that King Charles III had initiated a formal process to strip Prince Andrew of his style, his titles, and his honors. From that point, he would be known as Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. The statement went further. Formal notice had been served for him to surrender the lease on Royal Lodge, the home he had occupied for years. Read that again because it almost slipped past in the noise. A king moved against his own brother, publicly, in writing. The institution that had spent decades burying its problems quietly chose this time to cut. That is the moment the mood inside the monarchy changed. And it tells you something the public missed. while it was busy watching Camilla's facial expressions on a balcony. According to reports circulating across the British press, the pressure on the institution had become impossible to absorb in silence. The property questions got louder.
Hey, Camilla can't be queen. Diana is queen. She will be. And she won't be queen in the old queen's eyes either.
Reuters reported that the National Audit Office examined royal property arrangements, including Andrew's leases, the subletting, the royal lodge payments, and the wider system of royal rents. Suddenly, the conversation was not about scandal alone. It was about money, accountability, and who exactly was paying for what. Now stack the evidence the way a prosecutor would. Royal reputation under sustained pressure, property arrangements pulled into public view, public anger rising, a constant demand for modernization, and behind all of it, the steady approach of William's future reign, casting its shadow over every decision the palace makes. Here's the part that connects back to Camilla. When an institution starts cutting one branch to save the tree, everyone else in the family quietly checks where they are standing. Andrew got cut because the cost of protecting him grew larger than the cost of removing him. That is the new logic. Protection is no longer automatic. Loyalty is no longer permanent. Value to the future of the crown is the only currency that holds. So ask the cold question. In a monarchy now willing to strip a prince of everything, where does that leave a queen who sits beside the throne but stands outside the succession? Not in danger. Camilla is not Andrew. But the message reaches every corner of the palace anyway. The institution will move on whoever it must, whenever the future demands it. The antagonist in this chapter is not really Andrew. It is the old palace habit of silence, delay, and private protection that let problems grow until they exploded in public. The moral tension is sharp and uncomfortable. Accountability on one side, family loyalty on the other. And for the first time in a long time, accountability won. From a public relations standpoint, the Andrew decision sent one signal louder than any statement. The monarchy is now playing defense for its future, not its past. And Camilla, for all her endurance, belongs to the story of the past. When a monarchy starts cutting one branch to save the tree, everyone else checks where they are standing. And that is when William stopped looking like an heir waiting politely and started looking like a future king already being measured for power. While the cameras chased Camilla's expressions, the real power was quietly rearranging itself around a different person entirely. William, Prince of Wales. He doesn't need a dramatic speech. He doesn't need to win an argument or stage a moment. His position already gives him gravity. Every official decision the palace makes now bends, in some small way, toward the reign that is coming. And that reign has his name on it. Watch what the public got distracted by. They studied Camilla's seating positions. They analyzed her fashion. They froze frames of her face at ceremonies, hunting for hidden feelings. Meanwhile, the actual story was happening somewhere far less dramatic and far more permanent. In William's institutional role. In the slow, deliberate transfer of weight from one generation to the next. Royal biographers have long debated how power really moves inside the modern monarchy. And the pattern they keep landing on is this. It does not move through noise. It moves through position. And William holds the position that matters. First in line, future king. The man the entire structure is being prepared to serve. Now bring Catherine, Princess of Wales, into the frame. Not as Camilla's cartoon rival. Not as a villain in a soap opera. As something more powerful than that. The woman positioned to become the next queen consort. The face the palace is teaching the public to trust for the decades ahead. And here the emotional contrast becomes almost unbearable. Camilla is the queen of the present. Catherine is the queen image of the future. Both real. Both titled in their time. But only one of them belongs to the chapter the institution is actively building toward. Feel the difference between current title and future meaning. Camilla has the crown today. Catherine has the next chapter. William has the constitutional road, paved and waiting. Charles has the throne for now. And time, the one force no royal can negotiate with, moves in only one direction. That's what makes this quiet tension so heavy. There is no shouting. There's no public fight. There doesn't need to be. The contrast does the work on its own. Every time Catherine steps forward as the future, Camilla's present role looks a little more like an ending and a little less like a foundation. The public keeps waiting for a dramatic clash, a cold look, a leaked argument. They're watching the wrong thing again. The real shift isn't emotional, it's structural. The monarchy is already deciding who the next era belongs to, and it's making that decision in plain sight while everyone debates body language. This is not about who smiled at whom from a balcony. This is about who the monarchy is already teaching the public to trust. And once Catherine enters the frame, Camilla's crown begins to cast a different kind of shadow. Two women, one crown, and a contrast the palace never had to announce out loud.
Camilla is the queen, especially because there's a generation of people that really remember the whole Camilla, Diana, Charles saga that are not over it. There's always going to be that wound there. As Camilla was the other woman. And in as much as she's atoned and people understand that people grow and change, I think you're pushing it with Queen Camilla.
Queen Camilla represents survival, endurance, the complicated, decades-long emotional history of King Charles III's life. Catherine, Princess of Wales, represents something the institution treats very differently: continuity, youth, family imagery. The polished, camera-ready future the monarchy wants the world to fall in love with. Nobody has to declare a rivalry. The contrast does that work on its own. And here's the uncomfortable truth the case has to prosecute. Royal women are judged not only by what they do, but by what they represent. That's the trap none of them chose. Camilla stands for a difficult past the palace spent years working to rehabilitate. The scandal, the suspicion, the long road to public acceptance. Catherine stands for a future the palace is desperate to protect. The clean image, the next generation, the reign that hasn't even started yet. According to reports circulating in the British press, the so-called rivalry between Catherine and Camilla has been debated for years. But notice what the case will not do. It will not tell you a feud is proven. There's no confirmed shouting match, no verified Cold War. What's real is the symbolism, and symbolism cuts deeper than any argument. Because the palace doesn't need open hostility to create drama. It just needs two women standing for two different chapters of the same story. One representing where the monarchy came from. One representing where it's going. That alone is enough to keep the public arguing for years. And while the public argues, watch what stays untouched. The deeper power structure. The men who hold the constitutional road. The succession that was decided long ago. The institution lets the world fight over the women. Lets the headlines burn through Camilla versus Catherine. While the actual machinery of power keeps running quietly underneath, exactly where it always ran. That's the part that should make you uneasy. Institutions have always used women as symbols, as the face of stability, as the face of scandal, as the thing the public can love or resent, while the real decisions get made somewhere else entirely. Camilla and Catherine became the show. The structure stayed the secret. Royal biographers have long debated whether the palace deliberately uses this contrast to manage public emotion. Whether it's strategy or accident, the effect is the same. The crowd looks at the two women. The power sits with the men. And everyone walks away thinking they watched the real story. The palace does not need to announce a rivalry when symbolism can do the work quietly. But the most dangerous part of this story was not the women. It was the silence from the king himself. He could give her a crown. He could not give her the future. And King Charles III knew it the whole time. Picture the man caught in the middle of his own institution. Husband on one side, monarch on the other. Private loyalty to Queen Camilla pulling one direction. Public duty to preserve the crown pulling the other. And those two things do not point at the same place. This is the emotional heart of the entire case. Charles may love Camilla. He may depend on her presence. He may trust her more than anyone alive. But monarchy is not built around private love. It's built around continuity, succession, and the survival of an institution that's older than any marriage inside it. So look at what love actually delivered. Love gave Camilla proximity. It put her next to the most powerful position in Britain. Marriage gave her a title, the full, official weight of queen. Public acceptance gave her visibility, after decades when the public wanted nothing to do with her. 3 enormous gifts, and not one of them gave her succession. That's the boundary Charles could never move. He's the king. He can strip his own brother of titles, as the world saw with Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. He can reshape how the monarchy looks. He can hand Camilla every honor the institution allows. But he cannot place her in a line of inheritance that runs through blood, not through marriage. Even a king has limits, and this is the one that holds. Now sit with the silence. Through every rumor about a secret contract, through every viral claim that Camilla was left out, the king said nothing to settle it. While the palace officially denies the idea of any document cutting Camilla out, experts point out that silence has always been the monarchy's most reliable tool. Say nothing. Let the public fill the gap. Let them argue while the structure holds. And here's the moral the whole case has been building toward. People confuse being close to power with owning power. They see the proximity and assume the possession. Camilla's story stops being royal gossip right here and becomes something bigger. A lesson about ambition, about patience, about how the public judges a woman for decades, and how even total victory inside an institution can leave you outside the one thing that matters. She got in. After everything, she got all the way in. and the institution still kept the future in a room she was never going to enter.
And the duties of monarchy also remain, as does the sovereign's particular relationship and responsibility towards the Church of England, the church in which my own faith is so deeply rooted.
And that is the brutal part. Charles could give Camilla a crown, but he could not give her the future. Then came the money trail, and suddenly the palace story moved from emotion to evidence. Follow the money, and the royal story stops being about feelings. It becomes a ledger. The case widens here, because property is where the monarchy gets exposed. Reuters reported that the National Audit Office examined royal property arrangements, including Andrew's leases, the subletting, the royal lodge payments, and the broader system of royal rents. That's not a rumor. That's a public accountability body looking directly at who lives where, who pays what, and who has been quietly benefiting for years. And once auditors enter a royal story, the public mood changes completely. People stop watching like fans. They start watching like taxpayers who want a receipt. This case will not invent numbers. No fake figures. No made-up secret payments. The power here comes from what's verified and what's being demanded. Transparency, accountability, a clear answer to a simple question that the monarchy spent generations avoiding. Who gets protected and who gets paid for? Now connect the threads. Andrew Mountbatten Windsor served formal notice to surrender the Royal Lodge lease. Crown estate arrangements pulled into the light. Public scrutiny rising with every report. The growing demand that an institution funded by public tolerance should explain how it spends and shelters and protects. That's the pressure that forced Charles to act in October 2025. Not conscience alone, exposure. And here's where the word contract becomes powerful again, but not the way the rumor meant it. The real contract was never a secret page hidden in a vault to cut Camilla out. The real contract is the public contract between the monarchy and the people. The palace receives loyalty, attention, status, and financial tolerance. In exchange, it owes dignity, service, discipline, and transparency. Break that deal, and the whole arrangement starts to crack. That's why the audience came for one story and stumbled into a much bigger one. They came to find out whether Camilla got left out of a document. What they found was an institution facing the real question. Who gets protected? Who gets paid for? Who gets removed? And who gets carefully prepared for the future, while the rest argue over crowns? From a public relations standpoint, every property report does something the rumor never could. It turns royal drama into financial accountability. And financial accountability is the one fight the palace cannot win with silence. Because numbers don't care about charm. Follow the titles, and you find status. Follow the property, and you find the pressure. And once money enters a royal scandal, the public stops watching like fans and starts watching like jurors. The rumor didn't start in a palace. It started somewhere far outside anyone's control. And that's exactly what made it dangerous. Here's how the so-called offshore twist actually works, and it has nothing to do with a secret bank account. There is no proof of hidden illegal payments, no verified offshore vault with Camilla's name crossed out. The real twist is about how a rumor travels once it leaves official hands. Watch the path. A claim begins somewhere in overseas commentary, a foreign blog, a distant social media account. It jumps onto platforms, gets repackaged as royal news, picks up confident language, and then sails back to British and American audiences looking far more solid than it ever was. By the time it lands, the rumor wears a suit. It sounds official, and almost nobody asks where it was born. That's the rumor machine, and the case prosecutes it directly. The shocking contract may not be proven, but the emotional reaction to it is completely real. And here's the question that matters. Why do millions of people believe it instantly, without ever seeing a document? Because the public has been trained. They remember the Diana era and the statements that came too late. They remember Prince Harry, Duke of Sussex, and Meghan, Duchess of Sussex, walking away and the institution scrambling to respond. They remember Andrew, protected for years until exposure forced a cut. Decades of silence, delay, and damage control taught the public one lesson above all. The palace can hide things. So when a rumor says Camilla was left out, people don't ask for the proof first. They ask whether it feels possible. And it does. That's the real offshore twist. It's not financial. It's psychological. The secret was never a contract. The secret is how easily public trust collapses once an institution has spent years teaching people that secrecy is the default. While the palace officially denies any such document exists, experts point out that denial barely matters anymore. The belief runs deeper than any single statement. The monarchy built the suspicion itself, one delayed truth at a time, and now it can't fully switch that suspicion off. So the rumor lives, not because it's true, because it's believable.
I count on the loving help of my darling wife, Camilla. In recognition of her own loyal public service since our marriage 17 years ago, she becomes my queen consort. I know she will bring to
And
the
believable in
demands
the public age is almost as powerful as true. That is how a rumor becomes powerful. Not because it is proven, but because the institution has taught people to believe secrecy is possible. And now the case comes down to one final question. Was Camilla betrayed, or was she simply shown the boundary that was always there? The verdict is in, and it's colder than the rumor ever was. Let's be clear about what the evidence does not show. There is no proof that King Charles III signed a confirmed secret order to exclude Queen Camilla. The viral claim, when you hold it up to the light, is almost certainly exaggerated. The shocking contract, as a literal document, doesn't survive cross-examination, but the emotional truth underneath it does. And that truth is sharper than any forgery. Queen Camilla is central to King Charles's reign. She is not central to the monarchy's succession future. Both things are true at once, and that's the whole case. So return to each figure one last time and watch where they stand. King Charles III remains the monarch, holding the throne and the weight of every hard decision. Queen Camilla remains the queen, honored, visible beside him to the end of this reign. William, Prince of Wales, remains the future king, the constitutional road already paved beneath him. Catherine, Princess of Wales, remains the future queen consort image the palace is building the next era around. Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis represent the long-term survival of the line. 3 generations already mapped, and the others carry the warnings. Andrew Mountbatten Windsor represents the cost of unresolved scandal, the branch the institution finally cut. Prince Harry, Duke of Sussex, and Meghan, Duchess of Sussex, represent the consequences of royal separation in the public age. The proof that no name is too big to walk away or be left behind. Now the verdict itself, and it isn't explosive. It's quiet, and that's what makes it land. Camilla was not necessarily thrown out. She was not necessarily punished. No villain, no betrayal in a dark hallway. The monarchy simply reminded everyone of something it never says out loud.
How you doing? Hello. Sorry to keep you all waiting. I'll try and keep on time next time. Be better.
The crown can love a person, use a person, honor a person, and still move on without them. Proximity was never possession. It never was. She spent a lifetime fighting her way inside the palace, and the cruelest part of the verdict is what was waiting for her once she got there. The future had already been decided, in a room she was never going to enter, by rules that were written long before she arrived. So no, the real scandal is not that Queen Camilla was suddenly left out. The real scandal is that she may have spent a lifetime getting inside the palace, only to discover that the future had already passed her by. If this case held your attention all the way to the verdict, then you understand exactly why this story matters, and there's more coming. The hidden power moves, the quiet decisions, the secrets the palace would rather you never connect. So subscribe right now and turn on notifications, because the next story is one you will not want to miss. And before you go, tell me in the comments. Do you think Camilla won her battle? Or did she win everything except the one thing that counted? Share your thoughts below, because your perspective might be the exact thing that opens someone else's eyes. The next case is already waiting.